Happy New Year, LinkedIn and YouTube. I just wanted to take a second, and I'm going to do this every year, to talk about where we are. And if anybody's ever followed me, you know my mission is that I feel like with so much of the GDP and the SMB and the loss that we're taking in cybersecurity and the lack of capabilities and the lack of drive, I think that my mission is to help drive that change. A good friend of mine, Tony Miller, who was my VP of operations when I was at Iconic IT, used to accuse me of not being wrong about what my predictions were, just about their timing, which has its own drawbacks. But the point is I think we're finally at a stage where we're going to mount a fight in 2023. So if you're with me, please listen along as I kind of give my ideas of why I think that's the case. When you are trying to win this change that needs to happen, right? This ability to somewhat pick up and protect ourselves from a cybersecurity perspective, you have to understand we're fighting against a sea of things that are not correct for this to happen. What I mean by that is if you look at the news and all the breaches and all the code exposure and all the failures and the supply chain discussion, all these things that have been culminating, they build the first piece that I think is necessary for success. I think the three things that are necessary for success for us to change, that have to come together in one moment, are momentum, something driving something forward, right? Intent, the decision to do something, and then ultimately the capabilities, right? You can have all the intent in the world and all the momentum, but if you're not able to rise to it, you can fail and you'll still lose. And in the same way, if you don't have the momentum, but you have all the capabilities and you have all the intent and nobody gives a crap, as our customers haven't for the last 20 years, 10 years, however long people have been preaching this cybersecurity message, then I think you'd also fail. And so if you humor me, I believe I'll talk about each of those components and where we sit. From a momentum perspective, customers did not care. If you came to them and said MFA or let's go to the cloud, let's do this, let's change this, let's implement MFA, let's put in a different protection mechanism, let's give principles of least privilege, let's take away local admin rights. If you were doing all those things, you didn't have the momentum, right? Because the customer didn't care. And so now I think because of insurance companies and banks and people asking for SOC 2s and people changing regulations and insurance companies not paying or suing or asking for rescission or asking for MFA or putting in 20-page long checklists for you to get insurance, it started to drive the market in the same way as seeing these constant breaches and this constant lack of faith in things like our password managers getting compromised or Microsoft or whoever it may be. You're seeing it become a little sensitizing and also desensitizing, but I still believe driving the momentum because businesses are losing money. And as that happens, capitalism fixes that. And that's what we're seeing. And we hadn't seen that. So for the last 2 years, I think we've built momentum. I think there was momentum last year in 2022. But I think one of the challenges we faced there was a little bit of a lack of intent and a lack of capability. And I think what I mean by that is, and I don't mean it negatively or diminutively, is that MSPs in general, myself, as I went through these phases in 2018 and 2019 and 2020, they genuinely were focused on efficiency. All the beauty that drove our market forward in 2021 and 2022 and 2020, 2019, all this equity pouring in, the private equity players, people buying MSPs and rolling them up, drove efficiency and profitability and capability and service delivery normalization and scale of data and all these things that we're starting to see come out of the fruits of those integration labors that a lot of MSPs have taken on. And I think it has improved that. The problem has been it hasn't been focused on cybersecurity as a way of life. It's been focused on cybersecurity as a product, as something additional to sell, as a tool that you can just throw in. And I think that has been the biggest challenge in 2022 is this lack of capability. And we could dig way deep into that. I'm going to try to keep this video short. But ultimately, the capabilities have started to grow. You've seen educators out there driving the message. You've seen people become rock stars in this industry like John Hammond for teaching about what really is going on under the hood. You've seen people educate at every company. You've seen companies like Huntress out there driving their mission. You've seen people at Blackpoint and all of them, right? As you start seeing this go forward, you start seeing capabilities be built that are proxy capabilities, right? You have companies out there, and I don't want to leave any out, my good friends at Solution Granted and all of these others, and Novasoc Pillar, all of them, they're all growing and becoming more and more capable and more market share and more healthy as companies and more able to draw capital and more able to move forward in this market. And I think that's happened. And I think the last piece that you have to have and that's coming together this year is intent. I think there is a tangential intent that has existed over the last few years. I think people have said, I'm going to do cybersecurity because it's the next profitable thing, not because it's saying, I have to defend myself. I have to defend my clients. What we do is shifting. We're becoming commoditized. We're driving towards being able to actually change their world from a cybersecurity perspective. And I think that takes intent. And I think if I was to predict it, I think 2023 is going to be a great year because we do have all of these pieces coming together in ways that I don't think we ever have before. And I'll kind of sum it up. If you look at CompTIA introduced, I think, Trustmark in 2008 and had a abysmal adoption. In 2014, a revamp, and still almost this kind of haphazard to some extent understanding of that. It wasn't on my radar. I didn't care. We were building a X million with two numbers before that MSP in revenue from 7 people to 400 now, right? And I think that as you see that play out, the intent is shifting, and this year will be that year that we really gain ground. I think all the forces that are coming to play, regardless of the government's awareness and the things that are changing, that slow boat of legislation, or even that semi-fast boat of lawsuits and things playing out in the civil courts, are not the biggest piece here. I think it will be the unilateral MSP standing up and saying, here's a standard. Here's where we're going to go forward. And I don't know that it'll all happen this year, getting back to Tony's point, but I do feel good that all of the pieces that are necessary in place, you have healthy educators, you have MSPs driving their own education and changing their viewpoint and changing their paradigm of how they've seen this, and still maintaining profitability. I know some extremely profitable MSPs that are driving the cybersecurity world out there right now. So I would just say, for all of you that have hung on for this 7 minutes with me in my diatribe, Happy New Year. It's going to be a great 2023. I'm very much looking forward to seeing all of you continue to grow and be amazing as you have been over the last 2 years. Thank you so much. I'll see y'all later.